Okay guys, Brent Hull, Wednesday design video. I'm in Boston at North Bennett Street. My son's cabinet is right behind him. We've got this one over here with the pediment above. How do you design and scale and properly put together a pediment? That is the challenge that he's trying to put together. Come join us, we're gonna wrestle through this. Okay.
We're back.
So this is part 2 of helping Jackson build a pediment. So, you know, if you look at this piece right here, right?
This is Ryan's.
Ryan did a pediment, and
don't break it. It should come right off. Should be able to lift up.
So we were talking about where it sits and how it looks, and you know, he's done a good job in that he's got a bed mold, a Corona, and a cimation, right? He's using a little cove mold here. He's got a split fillet.
Yeah.
Right, so all in all, good. Now, when you step back and just look at it, right, what are the scale and the proportions? Because one of the things that I said to Austin or said to somebody when we were looking at this, you guys are developing your eye to see, because you said, we're just looking at it going, did we do it right? Did we do it right? You're developing your eye, right? And so you're beginning to look at it. This is, I think, good. Okay, I think it's handsome. It lifts your eye. It's a good size. I said that if anything, his Corona could be bigger, or his Freeze could be bigger. So I would think that I would have, you know, if you think of this as your architrave, his Freeze is what, a third of his architrave.
Yeah.
And so I would have a taller architrave. You guys were
taller Freeze.
Taller Freeze. Sorry. You guys were saying like, well, it's getting too tall. I actually don't think it's tall enough, because I think it could really lift up and kind of give that presence.
So one of the things, so you see how he's painted this white. One, he was second guessing whether or not to paint it white or not. He was inspired by a historical door that he was using with a scrolled pediment on top. But this color blue, this white. But one of the things that he did was he defined this as his architrave. You know, I know it's not because the architrave is anything above the door, but that's why he did it that size. And he kind of shrunk it a little bit so that he could mess with the bed mold and everything. And so that was why he ended on that. Because, you know, I'm saying he, because I ended up doing the exact same thing, or a very similar thing. His, I think, his Freeze is only 1 inch. Mine's 1.25 inches, which is the same size as this little molding.
So what kept you from me saying your Freeze should be roughly the same size? Do you just chicken out?
Steve, my instructor,
said it shouldn't be that big.
So I'd been designing on this. This is actually helpful that I've got both of these here. Aside from all the scrolling and notes and everything, we were designing them here. So this was actually my first rendition here of what the pediment was going to be. Okay. And so it's set up to where I can just set it on top if you want to move the new one. So if you can imagine, it was going to be something like that. And so originally that line right there would have been the Freeze, and I actually erased it, which that would have been a full 2.5 inches up.
Well, this line here, because your bed mold's right there.
No. This line.
Oh, you had it that big.
It's a faded line. Yeah. And I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's too much. I can't do that much. But when I was holding it on the thing, because it felt like it was too tall. And so I backed it down, and I ultimately settled on that one, which is, like I said, 1.25 inches, which I thought looked a lot more proportional, I would say, to the whole thing. But
not to my eye.
Yeah, well, I think that's a part of the learning curve, because I felt like everything was too tall, and Steve was saying, oh, it looks tall, I don't know. But I think one of the things that made this especially challenging is if we were kind of considering these as doors, and we were kind of matching them based on pediments in like print books that were done on doors. But then if you look at this as a door, this is actually a really squat door, which made it kind of a challenge.
And it may work better on his because he's got the drawers, and that piece looks taller.
Right. So that's why I ultimately was more comfortable.
That's why you chickened out?
Yeah. Well, I was more comfortable making the decision that way because it is already squatter, so I did bring it down.
So what I would have done, okay, is I would have mocked up this corner.
This is great. I asked him like 9 times. He wouldn't tell me. Now I got it.
I would have mocked up this corner, and I would have done 3 different Freezes, okay? Might have drawn it on there, but I would have mocked it up, okay?
Yep.
I would have done a taller Freeze. I would have probably been up in this range, okay? And then used the same bed mold, Corona mutuals that you've got going, and I would do this line going up, and I would stand back and look at that, and I would have worked it out that way, as opposed to it's just hard to see. And
you always say never draft it out first.
And if I was going to draft it out, right, then I would have done was I would have shaded this so that this began to have some shadow in here. It looks better, right? Because right now it doesn't have any oomph. And so giving it shading, giving it shadow would have helped your eyes see it and get ready. The third thing I would have done, I would have looked at furniture books, because what you want is the way they put together furniture or mantles or things like that, they played around with, and you would have seen a lot of historic precedent from playing around with different pieces like this that would have shown up on a corner of a piece of, a highboy or something like that. Or even, the inspiration piece, which was as a Stations of the Cross. So that's the way I would have played with this. That's the way I would have worked with this. I mean, you're close. You're nearly there, but
so I haven't finished it. Here's kind of the next steps of the piece, and I'd love your input on this. I kind of had two different designs in terms of how this split was going to be, whether wider or thinner. What would your thoughts be, just looking at that?
I would be down here. Okay. This is where I would be, and my piece would be here.
Much lower.
Much lower.
But like that's like a 4-inch radius or diameter saw hole.
And your point is?
I'm just asking. I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah. And maybe this goes up a little bit taller, but the precedent is not up here. You're way too high there. You got to be down here.
Even though these aren't cut right, but they're just kind of giving me a rough idea. These will be the pieces, but ultimately it'll be somewhere in. I mean, these are going to be cut off down there, but does that make sense? It's still that low?
Yes.
Cool.
100%.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm continuing to chip away at it. It's kind of one of those things that I'm working on restoring a door and restoring windows right now. So
in your free time,
It's a free time project, but I'll be excited to continue looking into it.
Okay. There's a little bit more on the pediment.
There we go.